All right, next up is homeostasis. So, what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is the constant adjustment being made by the organ systems to respond to changes in the internal and external environments while limiting too large variations of the internal condition required for life. In other words, it's like the thermostat. How do we need to constantly check in. We need to figure out if there are too drastic changes to the internal or external environments and figure out how to maintain a stable environment, how to maintain constant systems. So, and the way this is done, this can be maintained through the nervous and the endocrine systems. They are going to be responsible for gathering that information and then doing something about it. So this is going to be maintained primarily through negative feedback mechanisms. And negative feedback mechanisms, you really can think of them like a thermostat. They're going to measure to reverse changes back to normal. So things like blood glucose, body temperature, pH. Anytime one of those gets too high, anytime your blood glucose levels get too high, you're going to initiate a negative feedback loop to get that back down to normal. Anytime that your blood glucose gets too low, you're going to initiate a negative feedback loop to get that back up to where it needs to go. Just like a thermostat. As soon as your house gets too cold, the heater's going to kick on and bring it back up to the right temperature. As soon as your house gets too hot, the heater's going to kick off, the air conditioning's going to kick on to get it back down to the correct temperature. So the thermostat in your house is a negative feedback loop. It's a great example of what your body is constantly doing. But here is just an example of how a feedback loop works in general. So starting off, a receptor is going to detect a change and it's going to send information to the control center. So the receptor is going to sense an imbalance. That information is going to go to the control center. The control center is going to integrate that information from the receptors and direct the appropriate response. And then it's going to tell the effector what to do. The effector is then going to bring about that necessary adjustment and bring us right back to our homeostatic balance. So here is a great example of how we can regulate body temperature. When the body temperature rises above normal, the thermoreceptors in the skin are going to find out. They're going to send that information to the hypothalamus in the brain. The brain is going to tell the sweat glands to get going. So the sweat glands are going to increase activity and hopefully bring the body temperature back down to normal. Thermal receptors deep within the body can also do the same thing. They're going to send that information to the hypothalamus in the brain. The blood vessels in the skin are going to widen, they're going to dilate, and they're going to hopefully help cool the body down. You'll find that when you get very hot or when you undergo huge amounts of exercise, that your face can become flushed. Your skin becomes flushed and very, very warm. Your blood vessels are actually dilating, moving closer to the surface, hopefully trying to get off some of that extra heat, helping to bring that heat to the surface and hopefully dissipate at the surface of your skin. Conversely, if the body temperature falls below normal, thermal receptors in the skin will tell the hypothalamus in the brain, the skeletal muscles will start shivering to try and increase muscle activity and increase heat in your muscles. Thermoreceptors deep within the body can also tell the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus will tell your blood vessels in your skin to contract, shrink up, go bury themselves deep within the body to help stay warm. So this is why when you're very cold, you'll see that the skin may become pale to try and help conserve. This is why conserve energy. You'll often find that when you're cold, the first thing to become chilled will be your toes and your fingers, your extremities. Blood circulation will be cut off from your extremities, and we're going to start conserving energy and heat towards your more vital organs in order to help stay alive. So these are how the body can help sort of regulate internal temperature. One last thing I want to say about homeostasis. We are going to be spending a lot of time coming up in the upcoming chapters looking at different organ systems. One of the things that I will ask you to do for either bonus questions, homework, or maybe on the final exam is for each chapter, each body system, pick a homeostatic imbalance. This is what we're going to call, or homeostatic imbalance is what we're going to call any deviation from normal homeostasis. So it may be disorders, diseases, temporary cold or flu, anything that disrupts homeostasis, we're going to define as homeostatic imbalance, an imbalance in hormones, an imbalance in normal bodily systems. I would like you to adopt at least one homeostatic imbalance for each system. So what you'll often see on tests or study questions is to choose a homeostatic imbalance for that particular organ system. Define what that imbalance is, describe it, talk about which organ systems are affected by it, what's causing the imbalance, so on and so forth. This is one way that you can apply what you're learning to help you better understand that particular organ system's functions and purposes. All right. For this chapter, you should be able to develop a table to show the function and location of epithelial, connective, muscle, and nervous tissue. You should also be able to describe the 3 types of cell junctions, relate the structure of the skin to its ability to carry out the various functions, define homeostasis and explain its importance in life, and then describe and give an example of a negative feedback system. All right, and that is it for this chapter. Please let me know if you have any questions.